Hello there. Hope you are doing well. So we have another passage, a reading comprehension text. So and on the basis of this text, you would find out some questions have been given here. Um, but before we jump to the question, let's read the direction for question and also the text. The direction for question stated here: answer the following question based on the information given below. Now, what is the text is all about? We live in a time when about 896 million people survive on less than $1.90 a day. A time when the world produces sufficient food to provide 2,700 kilocalories to every person every day, yet a vast section of humanity is unable to afford it. The reason behind this is the paucity of funds. Paucity is called as a scarcity, right? Scarcity of funds. Traditionally, the private sector has always been associated with the continuous drive to maximize profits, often at the cost of rising inequality, whereas the public sector is shown to pay greater heed to the distributive aspects of economic benefits. The private-public difference rests on the relative rates attached to efficiency and equity, while the private sector limits its arena of concern to the bottom line. Subtraction of cost from revenues. The overarching role of the public sector is linked to enhancing welfare and promoting equity. Poverty poverty eradication has perks for the private sector too. Bottom of the pyramid investment by multinational corporations, such as those pursued by Danone in India and Unilever in Africa, helps to lift billions out of poverty. This in turn allows deprived communities to access products and services that have been appropriately priced for them, right? Whatever the private sector loses in terms of margins, it gains in terms of volumes. This way, the private sector is able to tap into new markets and geographies. Further, participating in the development process allows the private sector to gain in terms of risk mitigation and greater value creation. In addition to positive social positioning, currently corporate social responsibility initiates by the private sector show promising results, be it is the Tata Foundation supporting rivers in Varanasi or the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation providing grants to fight Ebola in West Africa. The private sector is increasingly becoming part of a shared agenda to end global poverty. Private-public partnership can also play a crucial role in elevating livelihoods. Recently, an IFAT-supported project in Rwanda forged a partnership between tea cooperative and private investors, making sure 30 to 40% equity shares for the cooperatives. Further, private sector jobs are more diversified and generate higher salaries. If higher incomes and job security is a marker of poverty reduction, alleviation, then the private sector is steadily contributing to reducing inequalities. It generates employment and makes livelihood higher. In addition, there is immense potential for commercial credit to benefit the lives of the rural poor. While complete credit penetration into the rural hinterland and urban slums is yet to be seen, the availability of commercial credit will no doubt protect the poor against exorbitant interest or excessive interest rates and debt traps. Concludingly, the private sector can end poverty. It can do so because of the new ideas it can bring to the table, innovation, strategy, and skills. It has the immense resources it currently wields and the humongous amount of influence that comes with it. The sector can participate because it is in its own interest to do so. In terms of opening up new markets and tapping new possibilities, all it needs is a reworking of the concept of profit from being a commercial end goal offering to shareholders to a social product to be distributed among all stakeholders. So, what we have done here, we have understood the text and will try to identify the main idea of the passage. The passage discusses the role of what? The role of the uh, private sector in poverty alleviation. So, highlighting how it can contribute to global efforts to eradicate you can say that poverty alongside the public sector, right? Public, public sector, public sector, right? Um, Despite traditionally focusing on profit maximizing, the private sector can benefit from engaging in poverty reduction by accessing new markets and you can say that enhancing, right? Uh, you can say that should shift its. It is trying to state here that what through initiative like corporate social responsibility and partnership with public entities, the private sector is increasingly involved in development efforts. The passage suggests that the private sector should shift its concept of profit and from a purely commercial goal to a social product benefit all stakeholders. All stakeholders. So the style of the passage can be drawn as the we can say that analytical, and you can also say that persuasive. It presents a balanced view of the roles of the private and public sector using examples and data to support its argument about the potential of the private sector in poverty alleviation. So if I talk about the tone of the text, so what we can find out, the tone is indicated as a optimistic and encouraging one, encouraging, right? As it acknowledges the challenges of poverty and inequality, but emphasizes the potential for positive change through private sector involvement. The passage encourages a rethinking of the concept of profit, highlighting the mutual benefits of poverty reduction for businesses and communities alike, right? So now let's move to the question. So the question stated that which of the following statement weakens to the argument that the private sector is not significantly or most importantly involved in poverty alleviation, right? Now we need to weaken, right? So each of the choice present here, the private sector has historically prioritized profit maximization over social welfare, right? So now, if you talk about that, private sector has historically prioritized profit maximization over social welfare. Two said that the CSR initiative by the private sector have shown promising results in addressing global poverty. Right. So third, which is stated that what for poverty eradication is primarily the responsibility of the public sector, while the private sector focuses solely on profit. Fourth, the private sector lacks the resources and influence to contribute meaningfully to poverty alleviation efforts, right? So, if you talk about that, out of these four options, so we can find out option two, which will be uh, most appropriate true. So, or weaken to the author's argument. So, what does the text point out? Corporate social responsibility initiative by the private sector have shown promising results, right? Promising results. Um, so, in addressing global poverty, this weakens the argument by providing evidence of the private sector's involvement in poverty alleviation through initiative like you can say CSR, right? We can say corporate social responsibility. It contradicts the notion that the private sector is not importantly engaged in addressing poverty. If we look at the option one stated means it merely restates a point made in the passage without providing any counter assignment or sorry counter argument. Option three, which is stated, is also incorrect too because it reinforces the argument rather than weakening it. Option four, which is also incorrect as it suggests uh, limitation of the private sector without addressing its actual contribution, right on. Hence, we can say that option two is the only option that we can to the author's argument. So, answer should be what? Option two. Hope you understood this. That's all. Thank you.